Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Good morning, y'all. Welcome to Sunday Sitting with Sisters. I am back in the building, and I hope y'all had a great week and a prosperous week. And I am back with our sister, who's going to be joining me on a monthly basis to talk about this womb wellness here. And this is Sister Abena.
Abena,
God, why can't I get it right? Abena. Sis, thank you for joining me again. I so enjoyed our last conversation where we talked about womb wellness, and I got your other book.
Okay. Yes.
So, now I have 2 copies of this, but they're going to end up at my job. So I'm going to make that part of some assignments. So how have you been? It's been 2 weeks.
Oh, really well. It's gone by really fast.
Right on. So with everything that's going on right now in the planet and on the planet, how can women protect their wombs? Because that's a lot of energy.
Oh, I mean, I'm big on the herbs, so I say we should be drinking our herbal tea almost every day, doing womb yoga, all the self-care stuff, exercising, walking, being mindful of those things that we put in our body, what we listen to, who we talk to, what we say.
Right on.
Who we let enter our bodies.
Okay, hold on. What does that mean?
Intercourse. That's important. The person who you become one with.
Right.
That's important.
So some people would think that's just a physical act, but the way you just said that, it seemed like that could be a little bit more.
Yeah, of course. Your sexuality is spiritual. It's not separate, even though, some people want to separate it. And, you have 2 spirits coming together, and you can get up with, different things, not just physical things like babies and diseases, but also spiritual strongholds, stuff like that. So, yeah.
I'm gonna dig in just a little bit right there, because I get what you're saying, but some people, this is all about teaching. People think about the intimacy part as a physical attraction, and we do something physical, but what you're talking about is something that's like not seen, but it does have physical complications to it. Like when we don't take care of our womb, or we don't know the energy that's been coming in. You said letting energy come into you that way. What are some of those things that can happen that's in the spiritual perspective of intimacy? and becoming one with someone that usually will come through in a physical form?
I mean, you can come up with different feelings, different thoughts, different struggles that you didn't know, whether you use a barrier, such as a condom or not, you are still swapping fluids, swapping DNA. So, different. I mean, I try to be as surface as possible and not to be, just try to make it as easy and elementary as possible. And then people can just read into it and get what they get out of it. But we are spiritual beings in a physical body. So we can say that we're attracted to somebody physically, but it's actually, the spirits that attract us to somebody. And
Right
it's the reason why. So, different feelings. You might, you got stalkers, all these different type of things that happen after you become one with somebody. So you have to be careful about who it is.
Right on. In your book, The Dark Womb Redemption, why did you say dark womb redemption?
Okay, yeah, because really the dark really just means melanated. And also because I didn't want to, we already have people don't want to be called Black. They don't want to be called African. So I was even trying to find what word can I even just, use to describe us. I just went with the word Black, even though, Black is a color and, all of that type of stuff. But dark, meaning hidden things. So it's I guess you could say twofold. Dark meaning dark people of the world, melanin dominant people. That's who, I'm talking about.
Right on.
And I am a dark-skinned woman. And also talking about the hidden things, the dark, the secrets. So I get into what some people may call the shadow side or the dark goddess side, the things that are hidden.
Right on, right on. I totally agree with you. I always remember Black as being the essence from which all things come. So it's just not a color. I learned about that in science. So if we did not have that beautifully dark melanated thing we call the universe, we wouldn't be able to see a speck of anything because it produces all colors forward, but the colors forward can't produce black. Like two white people can't make a Black person, but two pitch Black people could make somebody who's very, very light skinned. You know what I'm saying? So I think when I get that Black is a color, but it's actually a little bit more than just the color. All things come out of darkness. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I learned that back in science. So I kind of really love that. And your so in this part in your dark room redemption, where you have sexual intercourse, you also, the next thing under that, you have infertility.
Right.
What is infertility really about from your research and what you've
well, according to my research, infertility is when, depending on her age, when a woman cannot conceive, when she's not using any contraceptive, any birth control, when she can't conceive after 6 months, under a certain age, and then after a year of an older age. I'm not sure of the actual numbers, but basically a woman who cannot conceive is considered to be infertile.
Okay. So here you have that it could be a hormonal imbalance, some stress, scar tissue. I can't even get this word out of my head. Oh God, some kind of deficiency. I'm so sorry. My brain is just blank. Or having, scars from previous surgeries. When you see a Black woman, when you see a Black woman having infertility issues, some of the things you said here could be right on the money, but I remember working in the clinic where we would treat a woman through a pregnancy with the same STD 3 or 4 times, because every time we gave her, she was cured from it, she would go back and mess with the same guy, and then she would get it all over again. So you could treat a woman with a pregnancy 3 and 4 times for the same STD. Does that somehow affect your ability to be fertile?
You could not be able to get pregnant with certain people. Um, you're asking me if someone is having a reoccurring STD.
Uh-huh.
Oh
Or
yes,
they've been exposed before they even tried to have, they say in your youth, because I talk about this young people a lot, when you have sex a lot as a young person, and then, sometimes you have issues, but you don't know you have issues. Like I used to have a lot of girls who talked about having a discharge and older, but never thought much of it. Maybe because I'm overweight, maybe I ate something, and then turned around, this person had STD and never got it treated. And so as she got older, like when she went off to college, whatever, and then she got a degree and all this stuff, then she tried to have children, she was infertile. You know what I mean? So I don't know if we ever discussed that a lot, because obviously I've talked to a lot of women now who are in their 40s and 50s and don't have any children. And then when you really start talking to them, they talk about not knowing that they had an STD for so long and they never got it treated.
wow, that's very interesting, and that is something I'm not familiar with a lot of. I mean, when I finally do get the person, in front of me or on the phone who wants to solve the problem, that's something that hasn't been brought up. But that's definitely true that it kind of, I don't want to say it makes your womb not work or your uterus. Well, your uterus doesn't function the way it needs to function because there's been some imbalances that have happened. But I do believe that most of the damage is not. I don't think it's like it just can't be undone.
Right.
It would take a while to do a lot of cleansing and healing.
Right on.
And it could possibly still happen.
So with that being said, before your pregnancy, you have a part called rebirth. What things should a girl or woman be doing before she decides to have a child to make sure her wound is good?
Well, we want to look at mate selection. That's something that I talk about in the Dog Wound Redemption 2 more into the detail, because we got to do think about the other person is too.
Right.
It's not all on one person. It is too. Looking at the mate selection and stuff like that. But, of course, eating right, detoxing. A lot of times all a woman has to do is detox. And detox penetrates, it gets so deep that it's healing so many things that you probably didn't even know that was even wrong with you. And, and then it'll happen. So cleansing the body of the congestion, mucus, whatever we want to call it, tumors, whatever we want to call it. So cleansing as far as like eating healthy, a lot of greens, water, exercise, the different herbal teas to strengthen the uterus. We want to strengthen the uterus because even women who have babies back to back, they haven't given their time, their selves, their uterus time to heal. And we do have women that are getting pregnant before the 6 weeks and all this type of stuff. So people say, you can do what you want to do, but I am a big person on child spacing because you need to just take that time to really replenish your womb and to heal your womb. So I think the most important thing is making sure you're working on strengthening the uterus. Also getting your mind ready because carrying a child is really serious. I think of it as like your body is trapped. It's like you got something growing or being growing inside of you, and there's no escaping that, and then there comes the discomforts, the inconveniences, and all that different type of stuff. And that could really mess with you. Where women are like, oh my gosh, I want to hurry up. They want to rush the birth. Mental stress, we always got to think about the mental stress.
Right on.
So just thinking, is this something I really want to do? Knowing this is something that you want to do, and knowing that pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and even raising a child is going to bring a great level of responsibility and inconvenience. Right on. Along with the whole diet change and stuff. We want to make sure we get our mind right and to deal with that person, because people change all the time. So what if he decides that, he doesn't want to be involved anymore? you know, making sure that, because the woman can be the sole provider. So making sure that I talk about the finance part too. You know, it's going to be you're going to have to take off sometime. If you don't have like an operating business that can just operate without you, which, you know, most of us, well, a large amount of us living, you know, check to check. So we're going to have to take, you know, we're going to have to budget, see how we're going to take out time for that postpartum period. And then about daycare, because we talk about the birth plan, but I also am a stickler for the postpartum plan.
Right on.
Birth happens one time, but that postpartum happens for years. What happens when the baby gets sick? You know, how are we going to pay the bills? So it's actually a lot of things to think about, and not just physically getting your body ready.
So you said something that was interesting, and we don't talk about this a lot, but you hit on it a little bit. When a person decides to have a child, we do a lot about the, you know, you should birth plan and all that stuff, but we never really talk about those finances. We never really talk about like how much time you would want to take off or need to take off, or, you know, when people have new babies, sometimes they want to spend more time that's allowed if you're working for other people. You know, some people would love to take a whole year off, you know what I mean? But how can someone begin to make plans financially to be off work for, say, like 6 months to a year?
You know, whether you have a partner or not, saving, we're going to have to save. So working while you can physically, I like to take off at 6 months, whether if I have help or not, because physically you want to start to center yourself towards the end, or just lighten your load. And I know a lot of women say, oh, I worked up until 9 months. I worked up to 9 months. Like, that's really not anything to brag about, you know? But you want to lighten the load, and in this day and time, we can focus on digital money. So in the Dark One Redemption 2, I talk about 100 ways that a woman can make money after she's had her baby. Because if you are exclusively breastfeeding, you know, pumping sometimes can be a challenge. Sometimes breastfeeding can be a challenge. And then, you know, when you do put your child in daycare is expensive. Daycare is so expensive that it may even be better for you to just not even work, because it's like you're working just to pay for daycare. And essentially someone else is raising your child. So saving for one, looking for those work at home jobs, digital things. If you can get passive income, that would be great. So those are some things to consider when thinking about economically how you're going to take care of yourself and a new child.
You know, do you think in schools this should be a part of like a curriculum to talk about, say, plans in the future for if you decide to have a child?
Like family planning?
Yeah, but you know, sometimes, you know, they're like family planning, but, you know, it's kind of like we'll talk about like mathematics and reading and, you know, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? But we never really talk about the process of what it takes to prepare yourself to, if you want to start a family, like things to really think about, and not from the fear-based part, like don't get pregnant, but like, you know, like we'll prepare you for all kind of stuff except for something like this that is more likely to happen. Because I meet too many young girls who think, oh, I could just do, you know, I'll be taken care of. But pregnancy can be very different if you had some kind of plan towards it or something, or you know, what to do when you think you want to have a child. I don't know. They have the What to Do series. I don't know. But
like
do you
home ec, when we used to have home ec, but now that was really what, cooking, sewing, that we learned there. And then we think even when the medical field talks about family planning, all they're really talking about is birth control.
Right. Yeah, that's why I was going like, that's not what I'm really talking about.
Yeah, but I really do mean family planning. Like we want to plan to have this baby and not just have what I call an oops baby, which, you know, they're all a divine blessing. It's a spiritual thing to conceive and all of that stuff. But you got a lot of women who in sexual responsibility. And then when they talk about when it's sex ed, it's mostly STDs,
Mm-hmm.
condoms, abortion. But let's talk about when the condom breaks or it's not used. Even the effects of birth control, birth control pills and the IUDs and the different stuff like that. That definitely should be something, but I think that has to be in the home.
Right on. I agree. But if you do not, because I definitely believe it should be in the home, but we know in this society, the home has changed so much. I mean, I totally agree. It starts at home. But I meet too many young girls that folks know that they're sexually active, but they don't want to say nothing. Like we have to act like they're not doing that. But that's what's kind of controlling their life because, we just talked about how sex is more than just a physical act. And then you wonder why your daughter is acting a certain way or feeling a certain way, but she can't really share that because she's not supposed to be having sex. You know what I'm saying? But she is having sex. I just feel like, wow, like even if you gotten pregnant and it wasn't planned, I still think there are things you can do to kind of center yourself and prepare for this new life to come. You understand what I'm saying? And to bring the sacredness back and to help a woman to rebirth herself while she's giving birth to her child. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be in a traumatic setting. It doesn't have to be around a lot of drama. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. So that's why we do have doulas in the community who really do have a heart for teens and people like that, underprivileged people to help. But of course, they come in after you have the positive pregnancy test. So that's kind of a hard one if we take it out of the home, because if we're going to put it on the schools, then we have the morality part, and the different beliefs that people may have.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying, like, I'm watching them push through like gender education, and they're not giving a lot of parents option on if they want their kid to know that or not. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying, I mean, you can always opt out the class. I hope there's an opt out option, but I just feel like something that is very natural, like childbirth. Like I really want to normalize how positive and how powerful the womb is, because none of us on the planet can get here without it. But we probably know the least about it.
And we do need to change the dynamic, because when a woman, because we essentially let other people raise our children. They go from the daycare, whenever the daycare starts to allow to accept a newborn, 6 weeks or whatever, sometimes even earlier. They go from daycare to preschool at 3 to kindergarten and all the way up. So you essentially had somebody else to raise your child. And of course, everybody doesn't want to homeschool for whatever reason,
right?
But we have to get it, because not only are you being a birther, you're a teacher. You have to be a part of your children's lives, and you have to instill in them certain things. If not, you just go ahead and let the outside people, tell them. And so you have to steer them in the right direction. So that's when the whole parenting comes, some parenting skills comes in, and you have to know you have to be a responsible person and a teacher, because you're teaching a actual person, these things that you believe.
Right on. So where do you get parenting skills from? No, they're serious, because I've met some people and the light bulb went on when they had their kid. Their children.
It's no book, it's no guide on that.
And then I met some people, none of the lights came on. They was just like, you're like, didn't you feel anything, or don't you? And then some people go into super mama mode, So it's kind of like, do you think in terms of parenting class, not even parenting class, like just covering, how we have, you read American history and they have these different sections of American history. So you at least know something from each decade or each century or whatever. We don't even touch parenting.
It's that's a really hard subject, but we got to pay attention to it, because that's how we a lot of people are raised up, too many people are raised up in dysfunctional families, and they just carry that out. But at some point, you have to break the cycle. And I mean, I didn't get it until later on in life. And I know some people feel like you should have children early, get it out the way. But what if you're not mature enough to actually raise a child and you don't really know that much about life early on? And it's kind of like trial and error. And what works for one child doesn't work for another child.
Right.
I think parenting class is good because even though you can take the meat and spit out the bones, because some ways some people don't do timeout.
Right.
Some people do spankings, and
right.
Some people have different like a free way of parenting their child. Everybody, it's important, but it's so hard to give guidelines.
I get that. So do you think in terms of the wound, do you think some of us abandon our wounds but don't know we're abandoning our wounds?
When you say abandon, what do you mean? Like forget about it? Don't think?
Not okay. Like, I'm gonna give you a good example. This is just so this whole thing happened this week with R. Kelly, right? And no matter what people believe about it, I've heard people, women, I didn't say people say women, I'm talking about Black women, who sat and really was trying to defend this decision by comparing it to other people while they're in the midst of young girls watching to see what we think is important or how they may feel about their own wound. So if something happened to them, sometimes we don't say it, but we'll feel like, well, it's just nothing. Like they consented to it, or they should have left. Or you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, yo, y'all, come on. Like we have young girls, other women who have had this experience, and we're talking about it like we should all be okay with that because, white supremacy and they didn't sentence a white man. And it's kind of like stuff that's like, dude, we're talking about things that affect who you are, things that live in your womb and experiences, and young people and other, women who had that experience had to listen to us debate something like this. You know what I mean? Even if I have some strong opinions about things, I won't necessarily share it because I don't know what other people's experience have been. I just kind of keep it to myself. These days, I'm very conscious of who I'm in the presence of when I'm discussing things, because you never know somebody else's experience with that. Like when I talk about how much I love my mama, which I do. I mean, she's been an ancestor, she's been a good mom. I also know there are other people who hadn't had good moms. So I never talk like, well, you know how mom, no, we don't all have the same mama. You know what I mean? And so I want to make other people feel bad because that's not what they had, or like they should know. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think that you should do that because you should create a normalcy around that maternal love. It's not.
Well, I agree, but I'm just saying, I get what you're saying, but I also know, like, for instance, I remember talking to one of my friends, and my mother was an amazing woman. Like, she did some real amazing stuff. Like, she sacrificed a lot for her children. And then I remember one of my other friends was like, well, her mom wasn't never there. Her mom was a drug addict. She said sometimes she feels a little uncomfortable about that. So, I didn't feel any kind of way about it because she's my friend and I care about it. And I don't lessen my experience with my mom. But sometimes I am mindful when I'm talking about something that is really good, not to overdo it because that's not everybody's experience. And I think it's kind of like celebrating something and talking about my first time and somebody else's first time was awful. So I'm saying, how your first time is great. Well, no, for me, my first time was great. That may not have been everybody's experience. I try not to talk in generalities. Like everybody's first time must have been great. When that isn't. I make a lot of I statements when I'm, referencing something that's like that. I don't act like that's all our norms. Like I don't say, you know what I mean? Like I don't do that because they may not know what that means.
Well, as it relates to just pedophilia in general, or I'll just say adults being attracted to children, which is what it essentially is. I'm zero tolerance on that, and I will always speak up against that. I don't care how many people who I've had close friends to say, well, he should be live in another country where it's acceptable, or them girls knew what they wanted, or basically justify it. So I feel alone sometimes when I'm like against it. And so that's why therapy helped me, because it was like, is something wrong with me?
Right on.
Because I was like, everybody's okay with this. And even with my situation where they was like, just forgive him and move on. And, that happened a long time ago. And I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? But in the reality, the only reason why pedophilia is as common as it is because women allow it. I'm just going to be honest, because
Please.
women I know, they didn't even tell the men that could have protected the daughters. They didn't tell that person who is crazy. The guy who is crazy. They didn't let them know when it did come out that we have a pedophile among us, and they did not cut off the relationship. So these pedophiles are still married. They're still celebrated. They're still liked in their communities, even though people know what they've done.
Right on.
So I don't feel, and even with the maternal thing, I don't have that relationship with my mother, but I don't feel like, and I know a lot of women like, oh, my best friend, and she did this and that. I mean, the only thing I can think of is I hope that I can be that mother, and I just hope that I can just change the cycle.
Right on, right on. I'm glad you brought that up, because I just know it feels like in the Black community we have a huge importance on Black men and how they feel and how they're treated. But when it comes to Black girls and women, it's more like we are protectors of madness sometimes, or you know what I mean? Like we don't want him to get in trouble. I've heard so many girls say they didn't say anything because they didn't want to get the person in trouble, even though the person did something wrong, or they, it's always this thing about white supremacy and how we have to be the sacrificial lamb so that our people don't, whatever that is. I never understood that as a concept. I just feel like sometimes when it comes to the wound and the wellness of it, that doesn't seem to be an important kind of thing. Like even when somebody say they're pregnant, I've seen people go again, like
yes.
I'd be like, oh my God, like I work in juvenile hall. I mean, I do classes. I love my classes. So I have 2 girls in there that are pregnant. And one just told me this week when I was in it that she's expecting. I was like, oh my God, congratulations. She's like, you was the first person who said that to me. And I was like, I think that's incredible. You're pregnant. Like, but everybody else was like, what you gonna do now? You pregnant? Like it was like a death sentence. Like, no, new life is coming. Girl, you could do all kind of stuff. But I feel like there's this lack of importance on how well our womb beings are doing. I don't know what else I'm trying to say, because I even X that wound out. There's something about Xing it out in this culture that's very big. And I don't know if because we really don't have importance on the womb like that. Like somehow women who have a womb has bought into like it's nothing. Like, I had an elder tell me once, this was years ago, and she was raped, and she said they basically told her, well, the man just took they used the P word, and you'll get over it. This woman was like 70 years old and was telling me this story, and I'm sitting there like, did somebody just say like they just took your candy? Like he just stole your shoestring? I don't know. But there's something about when we minimize something that is so major and is so important and so powerful, we minimize it. And I don't know if that's a part of, I don't know. I can't even wrap my head around it. It just bothers me because we cannot get here without that sacred portal. We just can't.
Right.
I call it the sacred portal. Like,
right.
I don't care. It has nothing to do with high heels, makeup. They got nothing to do with none of that. Those are all aesthetics. They don't even mean anything. None of that makes me a woman at all. Yeah.
And like you were talking about teaching, we need to start teaching our boys early to respect that part of a woman of no means no, all that. And also protecting our girls, letting them know, look, you have something very sacred that people
Right.
will do a lot of crazy things to get. So, and then, I'm big on telling young children, the whole safe touches, private parts, and all of that stuff. That's not even taught.
Wow.
We're not even our children are not even taught anything. I know I wasn't taught that this is your private part. Nobody's supposed to see it. Nobody's supposed to touch it. And if they do, let me know. I was never taught that. Nothing about sex, nothing about menstruation. So, I mean, it's really odd. And I know one of my therapists was like in tears because she was like, it's just amazing of, what you've gone through and the fact that you are actually dealing with, like you said, this sacred portal. And, so I feel like the education is really deep when it comes to talking about the woman. We have abandoned the womb. I mean, a lot of women are walking around here without the womb, the ones who are the grandmothers, the aunties, who are the teachers. So they don't even have no connection with it. They didn't even think about saving it, the purpose. Oh, I don't want to have children, so you can take it. Or I'm not even going to try to heal these things that have started to develop.
It's interesting. So in a particular situation, there were some young girls talking about, when they want to have children. They was, really excited, whatever. And then there was one girl in the room who already had 2 children, and she didn't have no kind of connection to her children at all. She just, they said, and I said to myself, wow, like this is amazing. Like, do you even remember being pregnant? Oh, yeah, but they with their daddies.
Did she suffer from some type of sexual abuse?
I think she have. She hasn't disclosed it yet, but it was just the disconnectedness. I was like, wow, because you actually had 2 children come through you. You understand what I'm saying? Or to hear her say, well, because one of them is real bad. And I was like, I want you to stop saying that. I just straight up told her, I was like, because use another word. Like, she's a child, so she's active. You could say she's inquisitive. You could say, but she's not bad. Like, you just can't say that. I mean, she's this. It would be like for things like pouring milk on herself or trying to get the thing in the milk for. It's like, yeah, but she's a child. Like, she's trying to discover how to do it. My nephew does it all the time. He does. I'm like, I know he's gonna mess this up. I gotta let him do it. You know what I mean? As much as I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna have to clean this up. You know what I mean? But I feel like when you have a lot of things happen to you, you don't even really feel that connectedness to the womb. And I've seen this in my course of work, women who be so connected to a man, can't hear nothing their kids are saying. You know what I mean? And I only say that because what really ties y'all is that they came through your womb. That's one of the major things that's supposed to make you have this pull. Or I don't know how people can do something to children and then you watch it and don't feel anything. Because I'd be like mad as sin. I'd be like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Then some people be acting like they don't even see it. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of puzzles me. Like I never really understood how you can see something happening to a child in particular and don't feel some kind of way. Or if you see a woman harming herself, or, even when I see women who are homeless, I always stop and talk to them. I don't know what that is. I'm like, you all right? Or, that's just me. Because I just know as a woman, it's not easy out here. But I also realize like, wow, this is a sacred portal. Like, I wonder what happened. Because no one comes out their womb like, I'm going to be homeless, or, I'm not going to be connected to my kids, or I'm just going to do whatever. Like, nobody comes to the planet like that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so there's been some trauma, some traumatic experiences that have happened that haven't been faced or, dealt with.
Yeah. That's why your books are so important, because you cover a lot of this in here. And what I find in our community, because we do have this wall of silence, I think there's the blue wall of silence, but there's also the black wall of silence. When we do not talk about stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like, we just like, oh, I don't want to hear that shit right now. I've been somewhere with somebody who got drunk and they started talking about things that happened, and somebody told them, like, I don't want to hear that shit right now because I'm feeling good. Like, go down to the bar and talk to this person. And I'm like, how do you tell somebody something like that? It could be because maybe they got their own stuff. I don't know. but it's just kind of like that's one topic that a room will get almost cleared out, or people start tuning out for real, because it means that you would have to, I don't know, maybe your own stuff will come up. I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's exactly what happened. Because when I came out about my situation, people were like, "Oh, it happened to me too," and blah 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 blah. So, like, most of the people who were like nonchalant about it, it happened to them too. And someone told me, well, they figured that if it happened to them and they got over it, which getting over it means not talking about it. Like, why can't I just be like them and just not bring it up, not talk about it? You know, when maybe you so yeah, it has happened, but the abuse is really a part of our culture, you know, through enslavement, with the incest, with the splitting of families, where we get the term MFer, from, putting the bags over the head, just mating the mothers with the sons, just a lot of incest. It became a normalcy in our culture through slavery.
How do we unnormalize it? Because here's the thing, there's a lot of things that happened to us in slavery. And I mean a lot. I mean, I feel like I'm not an expert, but I go right to the places. I study those things. I visit those plants. I mean, but I also believe those people that lived in that time, they really did not have a choice. Because I watch us in this time really change things that we really absolutely want to change. I've seen people not speak to their families for years because their families were so dysfunctional. And it's like, I miss them, like just hanging with them, but I don't miss the madness. And I was determined I was not having that. I was not going to expose my children to that. We can't abuse each other and say we love each other. I'm just not going to do that. And so I feel like, there was a time when if your son did something wrong, you didn't hide him out. You made him turn himself in. See, that happened. Like, we
handled it in our own.
Yeah, there was accountability. Yeah, there was accountability. We did not protect people who harmed people.
So if you eliminate them, that'll make another one think twice about touching somebody's child. Right, but because it was accepted, and I mean, to say that we had no choice, I feel like even though we didn't have the internet,
right?
What did you say?
No. I was gonna say, I was talking about in slavery, like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Though, even though we didn't have, like, I don't even know if this is so much better now, because at that time we had each other, we had unity, we had at least parts of our culture that we have even denounced. Think about the food that we had to eat, and we still survived it. But there was a lot of revolts. There was a lot of people running away. There was a lot of fighting as well, because we are a warring people. Like, we don't take things down, and we don't take things lying down. Not all of us. You have some cowards, but you also have the fighters and the warriors who can help regulate and bring some type of balance to it. But it's like, being zero tolerance, that's the way we're going to change it, because I've had to do that. And this is myself from the toxicity, however you say it.
You got it.
That I've, been around. And what I can say is that even though the old ones maybe have written me off and said whatever they said, it ain't even about y'all anyway. It's about the young people. And for those, and so I've had to tell, like, a family member, that this is not right? Even though they allow this person to, allow y'all to be around this person, that this is not right, and this should have happened to this person. Just to let them know, if you don't know anything else, that this person don't deal with the family, because she is not going to tolerate being in the midst of pedophiles and people and the women who protect them. So unfortunately, yes, I do miss them, but I have to take a stand that and break the cycle because I can't have my children around that. And it has not been easy. It's been very difficult to constantly explain, certain things. I have to say, when you get older, you'll understand. And I can't even tell you everything because it's so bad. It's so bad. I don't even want to repeat it. But these people who are, your these certain titles in the family, they got some sick, twisted ways of thinking. And I have to protect you.
Do you think our image or believing in an image or perception is why people tend to protect folks like that?
I believe it's religion for the most part because everybody who has been accepting of these pedophiles in our family, or I'll say mostly everybody, are Christians, and Christianity teaches you to forgive. And God, all you have to do is confess your sins, and that's it. You good.
Wow.
These pedophiles ain't even confessing some of them do. Some of them be like, yeah, I did it, but they ain't trying to make no change. They got a sickness. And even psychologists say that they don't change. They have a sickness. There's nothing that can change them. They have a lust for children, and they're going to mess with somebody. And some of them ain't gonna never tell.
That's crazy. I agree with you. I definitely think religion has a stronghold and it takes away your ability to reason, you know what I mean? Or to even be responsible, you know what I'm saying? But I also see us talk about what this is going to do if something happens. I'll say if the person is, and we had this happen here in my town where a pastor or a deacon or whatever, and some young girl came out against him, and people lined up against this young sister, and some of us stood up to support her, but it was more like, this is a God-fearing man, and we don't have many of those. And I'm like, how can he be God-fearing if he up here raping children? Like, what is wrong with y'all? Like, how do you find God-fearing in the same breath as someone who is preying on people in your church? You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. Like, you understand what I'm saying? So I get it with the religion, but I also think we tend to believe in perception a lot. Like we want to keep the image just the way it is. Like, the person could be 10% good and 90% bad, but we're going to stick to that 10% because you're too lazy to deal with that 90%. You would rather have that 90% keep affecting the rest of your community just to protect that 10%, or the perception of it.
They want to keep that man. They want to keep the look of the family. They want to keep everything looking a certain way. Shh, don't tell anybody. Right. And we're not going to talk about this. We know. Because even one of the people that spoke up was like, well, I'm just going to watch him around I'm just gonna watch him around my daughters. That was pretty much what one of the ladies said who knew about my situation, who's still around this person. And because he's like a funny guy, like he's always joking and laughing, so they like that part about him, and they don't want to break up the whole family dynamic. So it's really sad.
Wow, we need to have a list of things you probably shouldn't say to people. Because like watching him around your daughter, that's like trying to watch somebody who's on drugs not to steal out your house. At some point, they're going to make their way away from you and do what they got to do because that's their mission. You understand what I'm saying? Like you can't watch the person all the time. Like that's just not possible. It's just not, because that's their mission. You understand what I'm saying? In a minute, you'll forget because human beings do all the time because you go on to do something else. So I don't know, sis. What made you write this Dark Womb Redemption 2?
Because I wanted to talk more in depth on pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum. So those are really important dynamics. Even though I touched it in the first book, I wanted something strictly to help women, because we have the infant mortality rate, the maternal mortality rate, that's really high in this country, with all of the medical equipment, all of the specialists, all of the free insurance, with everything that we have, we still have the highest mortality rate, and even a higher with complications and things like that. So if I can share with people the things that I've learned based on my experience with myself, and also how I've been able to help other women. And I want to just kind of give out the so-called secret to how I've been able to just help women have a positive birth and postpartum experience.
You have a section in here called the sacred seed.
Yes.
Why did you entitle that chapter to the sacred seed?
Well, it's really like what you were talking about, thinking like when we're talking about planning children, and basically reverencing the whole pregnancy, and reverencing the fact that we are bringing children into this world, or to just kind of be mindful of what we're doing, because we are not taught about sexual responsibility. That's just something that's, like you said, it's not really taught. So we think, okay, we do this act, oops, we come up pregnant, and we don't really feel like pregnancy. We don't see the sacredness of it, of actually conceiving. So I wanted to bring more attention to that. So I've just learned a lot, just throughout the whole, just being in birth work and seeing how we need to reverence that time.
We talked earlier about the money. You have Mama's Money, and I love that you came up with a list, family. Like, I think she has like 100. Yeah, of ways you can make money. Because we do live in a different time. Because how else you gonna make money? Like 100 ways to make money.
Yeah, we gotta be creative, and I've had to do it because I'm not a big fan of daycare, so I've had to make things work.
And you have this, y'all. She has in this book. Please go and get this book. She has 2. You should just go and get them both. But you have ways to make income, breastfeeding exclusively without a babysitter, being a single mother, and with little income. Now you came up with 100 ways by doing these things here, or with the things you have here. And this is just like creating products. So it's funny because I buy a lot of homemade products from people. Like, once that caught on, selling candles. I'm always supporting people, becoming a doula, lactation breast consultant, womb wellness consultant. Now, womb wellness consultant, do you have to be okay before you do that?
Yes. There's women who have been able to heal themselves of certain things.
Right on.
So everybody has an experience. These are choices. Everybody can't do everything, but you can do something. Like even if you have you're getting food stamps. When I'm saying with no money, if you get food stamps, you can buy sea salt, you can buy herbs, you can buy different things. You'll have to get the containers, and it's a lot of hustles underground that women can do with the WIC and the food stamps and stuff to get some cash. So you can buy containers, get your labels, because that's what I did. I had to buy things and go out and sell them to the public to make it work, to put gas in the car, to pay insurance, to buy clothes, those things, and then from there it can grow. That's just something that you can do. And even if you that people put their cars on, they let their cars be rented out.
Yeah, I seen it on your list.
So if you already, let's just say you were left with a car, it doesn't even have to be a luxury car, a foreign car. It can be a regular car that you've kept up and you've done it nice, and you can do that. Even with being a doula, there are many clients that don't care if you bring your child. So you can wrap your baby around you and go serve another mother. If you've been able to heal yourself of fibroids or something like that, you can do womb wellness. I mean, I have an official course, but who can stop you from that? You know, you don't need to have a degree to do that. If you've already have testimonials and you've done the work, you know how to do that, you can help somebody else. If breastfeeding was a breeze for you, you can consult with somebody else about it. So it's just trying to give people an example, because everybody was like, you know, it's so hard. I'm breastfeeding, I can't pump, I can't do these things. It's just trying to eliminate the excuses.
Look, you came up with 100, and I'm looking, you know, proofreading and I'm like, wow, these are like these to me. These are like things back in the day. I'm a child of the '70s, and I remember my uncle worked at the post office, but he also on the weekends he's the person who come to your neighborhood, like, get your fruits and vegetables on his truck. You know what I mean? His wife, my aunt, she did stuff. Like, I remember them always having more than one job to take care of their family. When they bought their house in a certain part of Jersey that we didn't even live in that certain part of Jersey. I mean, they always had a way of making money. It just wasn't about the 9 to 5. They always figured out ways, because they put all their children through college. You know what I mean? So there's always been a way. And here you have like 100 things that you can do. Like, that's incredible. But then what I also like is you also give them tips, because I watch a lot of people. I have employees struggle with certain things, but you talked about breastfeeding immediately before and after your duties, and, you know, surrounding yourself with mothers and children loving people.
So that would be acceptable if you having your child around you.
Right. But that makes so much sense. I mean, you have things on here to me that makes a lot of sense, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people, they don't necessarily get these kind of messaging. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when people say, I just want to be around positive people, but it's like, that's not what you're attracting right now. So you may have to check yourself out a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? But I love that you give people, you know, bartering, you know, the babysitting. This is using a mute button on your home. I mean, for at-home telephone jobs.
Yeah, if you do work at home, and you know you got a crying baby, you better make sure, or you can hit that mute button real fast. Get you a set of headphones, get you some good Wi-Fi, and you good. And even go to the library. I was at the library a lot. I actually did nails. I was a manicurist at a barbershop. And so it was a Nation of Islam barbershop. So they were very open with me. When I had to breastfeed, they didn't mind it. So I would breastfeed before I did my clients. I knew that nap time would be this time, and I could work at least about 5 hours until the baby will just be, you know, when they start walking, you can't contain them no more. I even had a playpen up there at once. I mean, it was, I did it. So I just try to share with other people that you can do it too, if you have to.
Sis, what would you say was or maybe one of the turning points in terms of what developed you into the person that you are today? Like, you're author of these books, you know, you're a doula, you're an assistant midwife, you're a yoni steamer practitioner. Like, what was it that began you to move into that reality?
It just came step by step. Like I said, I wasn't never the motherly person until I had my own first child in 2008. And the other sisters admired me and asked me, hey, how are you doing so well breastfeeding? Then I potty trained that too. Never had no accident, you know, after that. Never peed in the bed. I just don't know. I just kind of figured things out. I studied a lot while I was pregnant, because I didn't have support from my family. They were like, you don't need to be breastfeeding that baby that long, walking, he got teeth, you know. But I guess just having a strong mind, and I have to really just think that it's really my purpose. So I don't take, you know, even though it's a trend for people to do, and people tell me, oh, this person is copying you, this person is doing this and that. but I know that it's what I'm supposed to do. Doing the womb work. So everything just starts one by one, but trying to break the generational curses of poverty, basically just trying to do what I'm supposed to do. Because that's what we all have gifts and talents of why we're on this earth. So we should just do those to the fullest. So that's the reason I think just having a strong mind, that's really the only thing, because I'm not really like anybody in my family when it comes to my thoughts and the way that I just live my life.
Right on. Sis, next month when we get together, we're going to do the first Sunday, right?
Right.
Do you think on that one, because a lot of people, so I worked for a clinic for years and we did have doulas. We had doulas and midwives. That our staff was midwives, and then we started having doulas as well. But I wanted to really talk a little bit more about the doulas. See, out here in California, now the hospitals are taking on doulas. It's funny how you see before when they really wasn't welcome, and now they're the new thing, if you will. But I want to kind of get more in depth about doulas, and particularly about your steam, your yoni steam, and how that can impact your womb, and what's the purpose of having a doula, and why why are doulas so important now? Because I really think people, sometimes when celebrities take on doulas, then it becomes like a fad. But I don't know if people really understand the importance of a doula, or really understand the importance of having a midwife, if you can have a midwife, or the importance of taking care of your wound and that yoni steam.
Okay.
We do have a few yoni steams here in my city, and they have been wonderful. I've supported them. And then one of my best friends is a midwife, and so one time she let me use her wooden stool that you do the yoni steam in your shower, that you sit on, and then you put the pot under and all that kind of stuff. But I really think sometimes people, I don't know if we really, really understand the purpose of where those practices come from, and how in some ways we're kind of quickly returning back to some of the things that we thought were outdated. But it seemed like they're more in date and in time than we ever could really figure out. So I look forward to that. Where can people pick up your books at?
They can go to my website, craftswoman.com. They're also available on Amazon. So they're cheaper on my website than they are on Amazon. So yes, that's where you can get the Dark Womb Redemption series.
Yeah. Are you planning on writing another book?
Yes, I actually I have 2 that's in my head, and I have goals that I'm supposed to be finishing. But I don't know how long it's gonna take. But I've actually, one of them is pretty much, I'm at the end part. I just need to add a few things, and then there's a whole nother one that I want to talk about.
Right on. I'm going to make this a part. We get ready to start our next rites of passage for our girls, and this is going to be required reading. These are my high school girls.
Oh, right.
And I noticed that my girls in juvenile hall, I'm going to have to figure out how to get these approved. It's probably not hard at all, but they read a lot of books in juvenile hall, like a lot. Because every time I start my session, I always say, well, what books? They have like 2 books on their desk that they get to pick. And usually they read a lot of stuff around trauma and stuff, drama, whatever.
That's exactly why I want young people. That I really wrote that for young people. And I was just surprised at the other 40 and up, 50 and up people that were like, they enjoyed it. So yeah, it's definitely for young people, because somebody may not be telling them those simple things.
Yeah, I definitely gonna talk to because she orders all the books and stuff. Like I got them with the 4 agreement books and cards and stuff like introduce them to stuff a little at a time. But this, I definitely think I can get in there, because I know they will. I mean, they read a lot of books. I didn't realize they read so many books, because they have nothing but time. So they're like, it's so boring in here. But this will be a good book for them to read. So
thank you. Yeah, just let me know if you want to buy in bulk, and we can try to make it a little bit cheaper, even though I have cut the price on the website. But if I'm shipping them to you in bulk, maybe we could do something.
Okay.
A bulk discount.
I think this will be good. Okay, let's talk about that. So hold on, because let's talk about that. Because okay, let me wrap this up. Okay, family. Thank y'all for joining me again on another Sunday Sit with Sisters. Thank you, dear Sister Adu. I am so grateful for the time we spend together. You're a wealth of knowledge. And again, y'all, get the books, get the series, go to her website. It's a good book. And she looks absolutely beautiful on here.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.